Hello, Phil Conrad here, and we've come to the point where we're at the final video of our team02 project, which is the one, at least this quarter. Team02 is the one where we are doing the front end for CRUD operations in a Spring Boot React code base. Here is our issue on the Kanban board. It's the edit page for a database table that holds GitHub commits, where each row in the database table is one commit. And we see that we're depending on having the fixtures, the form component, and the placeholders for the commit pages. We need a branch that has all of that in it. Let's get started. First of all, let's take a look at the pull request queue and see if these three things have been merged into main. If so, we can make a branch right off of main. I suspect that will not be the case. So let's see. We're going back to here. We can go, oh, sorry, one more time. We can get from here to the repo and look at the pull request queue. And I can use author pconred to see the pull request that I authored. And yeah, sure enough, the form was not merged yet to main. So we need that. We need the commits in this branch 99. We're going to need the placeholder pages, and it will be certainly easier if we use a branch that has the index page, more satisfying because then we can get to the edit page from the index page. So let's take a look and see if this branch has, no, it does not. It does not have the commits from this branch in it. So we're going to need to make a branch that has these commits and these commits, the ones from pull request 99. And that branch is PC commit form. And we also need the commits from, filter this again, from 114. So let's start with this branch. This is PC commit index page. So I will come over here and get checkout PC commit index page, and I will get pull origin PC commit index page just to make sure that this is up to date. And I will also do a get fetch origin so that my local branch pointers are all up to date. And you can see that, there have been 3 branches that have changed since the last time I did that. Now what I'm going to do is merge in the commits from, where is it? This one, from pull request 99, which is PC commit form. So I'm going to say get merge origin PC commit form. Now here I'm using the slash because I'm specifying a branch. Origin / PC commit form. I could just do PC commit form since I just did a get fetch origin, but this makes it clear that I want the branch pointer that just got fetched from GitHub. So wherever GitHub's notion of PC commit form is, that's what I want. And I'm going to merge that into my current branch. It says already up to date. So that would suggest, hopefully, that when I do code and look for the form under commits, yes, commit form is already here. All right, good. So we have a branch that is suitable for this work. And now we're going to get checkout -b. We need a new branch because we already have a pull request. My current branch, get status, PC commit index page. There's already a pull request out on this branch. So I need to create a new branch. If I push commits to this branch, then that pull request becomes a moving target. That's not good. It is already in the queue to be code reviewed and merged. We don't want it to be changing while people are reviewing it. So get checkout -b PC commit edit page. All right, we've got our branch. Let's go over to GitHub and we're going to make a new page. The commits edit page already exists, but it has the placeholder on it. You see this text here. Make that a little bit bigger. Let's get rid of these messages here. You see that the contents of this right now are the page that says edit page not yet implemented. So we are going to, in fact, actually that's the edits page test, my bad. We want to actually go up to under main pages, commits, commit edit page. We will get to the tests in a minute, but first let's actually implement the page. And I want to move this over, having trouble. There it is. That's what I was looking for. Okay, so this is the current page as it exists in our app right now. We're going to replace this placeholder code with an edit page example, and we're going to use restaurants as our example. So let's paste that in. Now we need to change restaurant form to commits form, or is it commit form? Let's see. Under components, commits, it's commit form, singular. So main components, commits, commit form. The rest of this stays the same. We will change this to commit edit page. Let ID equals use params is the way in which, if you recall, if we go back to app.js, when we set up the route for the edit page, commits edit :ID, that :ID is going to be a number. Like if it is the row in the database that has ID equal to 4, this URL will be commits edit 4. If it's 7, it'll be commits edit 7. And that value, the 4 or the 7, the way we get access to that in our code is with this line of code right here. Let ID equal, and there's a call to use params. Use params returns to us all of the parameter values, all the little things that are the colon things in our route. So if I had a route like ID, foo, bar, thumb, these could each be values, and I would read those in over here on my commits edit page by saying something like let ID, foo, bar, thumb equal use params, because this is going to return an object, and this allows me using JavaScript destructuring to split that into the individual variables. In fact, we only have the one param, so I'm going to set this back to the way it was before. You might remember this little nice trick in a Git repo. I can just use the little hook here to say restore the code to what is already on GitHub. A little undo there I can do. So let ID equal use params. Now we have here our use backend call. This is use backend as opposed to use backend mutation. Use backend is what we use to do like a get request from the backend for some data. And when we do this, we are using this as our cache key, basically saying we're going to get this value from not API restaurants in this case, but API commits for whatever the ID is, cache it with that URL as the key. If we were to invalidate that key, it would mean that we need to refresh any page that is using that. It occurs to me, no, that's fine. Okay, never mind. I'll save that thought for later. In any case, that is the key that we're going to associate this get with. We're going to do a get on API commits, and we're going to use the ID. So that, and the data needs to go into a variable called commit. That's what that does right there. Come on down here. This is the object to Axios put params call. And we're going to use this when we do the put call to the back end. You may remember that we built a Swagger endpoint using the put method for updating. In this case, our params here are going to be ID is commit.id. That is the param that's going to go in the URL params. And then the data, if you remember, let's go take a look at what the Swagger endpoint looks like. And I can bring that up with team02. There it is. All right, there. We'll go to the Swagger back end of this app and look under commits. And when we do a put, we first need to do a get. And actually, before we even do a get, let's do a get all and see. All right, so here's a couple of commits. Let's take this one, ID number 1. And if we were updating this record, we might go into put, say this is ID 1, paste in the object, and I need to get rid of that stray comma, and then we might update. This is my updated commit. URL, new stuff, pconred, we'll change it to division 7 and change the time from 12:31 to 11:30. There is no 11:31. So this updates all the fields. And just to compare, here's the Swagger endpoint. Here is the object to Axios put params. And every time you see one of these, think of it as the JavaScript representation of what you would do in Swagger. So this ID part is this corresponds to this here. This data part corresponds to this over here. So we need this to be not name and description, which is what you would have for a restaurant, but in fact, I can sort of use this a little bit to kind of, well, I'm not going to copy paste. I'm just going to type message colon commit.message. And what's next? Move this over so that we can see it at the same time. This is going to be URL, commit.url. Author login is commit.author login. And commit time is commit.commit time. Now, just a note, you may remember, and this is something that's particular to the database table that I'm working with in this example. This will not affect most of your database tables for team02, but it could be something you run into during the legacy code project. We do a little bit of extra little hack with this commit time. This commit time at the moment is the one that is, it comes in from here, from the use backend call. And then we, at some point, are going to put this into the form. You can see it down here. Initial contents equals commit. But this is not going to work unless, oh, you know what? I take it back. I think this is going to work because I think the code that takes the Z off, remember that we have to take the Z off the end, the Z that represents the time zone, for this to load properly into the form. But I think that code is already there in the restaurant form. Is that correct? Maybe, maybe not. No, I don't think it is. Oh, this is restaurant form. Never mind. Commit form is what I want. Commit form. Are we? Yes, we are. We've removed the Z right in the commit form. So let me just show you that again. That happened real fast. In the commit form, the initial contents comes in. We remove the Z before we put it into the commit time in the default values that are loaded into the form. So we don't actually have to worry about that here. The initial contents can be passed right to the restaurant form. This needs to be now the commit form, and this will be edit commit. And we only show the commit form if we have a commit. Now, you might say, well, how do we not have a commit? This is the funny thing about how React works. We will load this page, and the page will be loaded at the same time that then we call this use backend, which then completes asynchronously, and the page will get re-rendered when this returns. So the first render of the page, we won't have a commit yet. And if we tried to render this commit form, we might very well end up with some weird mess where the form is empty and then in a weird state. So we basically say, if you don't have a commit form, there's just going to be an empty object here. And that empty object is going to essentially be just emptiness on the screen. So we don't render the commit form until we actually have a commit. That's what this code is saying. All right, so let's just start at the top again, make sure we've got everything, that we got all rid of all the restaurant. Right there, that should be commit. So once again, from the top, we have all of this. This looks good. This looks good. This looks good. Nope, not restaurant updated, but commit updated. And ID is commit.id. And instead, we'll do message is commit.message. It's up to you what fields you want to put in the toast message. And then when we're using backend mutation to do the put, this needs to be API commits, ID equals ID. Yep. Okay. And if we are successful, we're going to navigate back to the commits page. This is where we use that storybook parameter. If we're successful and we try to do this navigate while we're in the storybook, it would simply not work. So we just don't do it if we're in the storybook. And that saves us a little bit of problem there. I think this looks good. Let's give it a try. So Maven Spring Boot run and cd front end nvm use 2017 0 npm start. And we have a problem. Restaurant is defined but never used. So we missed one. Let's just search for restaurant, and there it is. So this should be commit. And let's look again. Okay, now restaurant, no results. Good, much better. So, and now this is compiling. You see that it does hot reloading. As soon as I change the code, this changes. And I can't seem to drag this over by the right tab here. That's the tab I want. Login, go to commits, and I have an edit button. The edit button before took me to a placeholder page, but now it takes me to a page. And let's just make sure this is saying 1512. And sure enough, 3:12 p.m. is 1512. Let's change that to 3:13 p.m. Let's change this back to P. Conrad. I forgot the linter existed. I ran it now, exclamation point. And we'll just change this to pull request 78. This is all, sort of fake data anyway. Click update. Axios failed with status code 400. Why is that? Now that might be because we have to put the Z back on, but that's what it is, before this commit goes back over. We took the Z off in the form, but we have to add it back on when we're sending the data to the back end. We have the same problem, if I recall correctly, when we did our create page. So let's take a look at the code. Where does the data go over? It goes over right here. So I can do commit time, and I believe that this commit, let's see, the commit form, submit action is on submit. Here's on submit, mutation.mutate data, and this is the back end mutation. And this is the object to Axios put params. The object to Axios put params is here. The data, this is yes. All right. So this commit is going to be the data that comes from the form. So I think we can use a JavaScript trick here. We can say we want commit.commit time with a Z on the end of it. We could do it that way. We could also have done commit.commit time plus Z doing string concatenation. But I'm going to do it this way just so that you can see the syntax. Now, we may very well end up with a mutation issue here, and we may end up refactoring this out into its own function, but let's cross that bridge when we come to it. Right now, let's just see what happens if I click update. And now it worked. It worked. So let's try editing another one, and we'll change this time to 641. Update, and it worked. And on down here, we'll change foo to PC. This is a better commit message, but it's still not very good. Update, and yeah, it seems to be working. So we have a working page now. Now we write the tests. So let's write the test. We can write the test first, or we could write the storybook entry first. Let's do the test first this time. So we'll come back over here, and we will go close up pages, and we want to go under tests, close up components under pages. Here is commits edit page, and you can see this is the test for the placeholder edit page not implemented. Select all, get rid of all the code. We'll go to our restaurants edit page, select all, paste that in, and restaurant edit page. This time I will do a search and replace on restaurant edit page with commits edit page, search and replace. All caps restaurants, I will change to all caps commits, but I will do this to ensure that it is case sensitive so that I'm only converting capital R restaurant to capital C commits. And there's only one of them anyway, so I'll just do that. Now let's look for restaurants lowercase. And this will be commits lowercase. I'm going to do these one at a time to make sure, because these are all slightly different contexts. That one's good, that one's good, that one's good, that one's good, and that one's good. I remember this to be called with is deprecated, and if you hover over this, assuming you have the right VS Code extensions installed for JavaScript and React and whatnot, it is telling us that to be called with is deprecated and in favor of to have been called with. So that's what we should do here. We should replace this with to have been called with here and here. And now we still have some work to do. And again, I like to go through and comment out all of the tests except for the first one. Now, one thing to notice here is that there are nested describe blocks. The outer describe block, these are all commits edit page tests. And then there are two describe blocks, one for when the backend doesn't return data, and we're setting up a before each function to show that when we look for a commit with ID 17, it is going to time out. And then we also have a different describe block where the backend is working normally. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the little arrow here to collapse the describe block, comment out the entire describe block, including all the tests inside. This first describe block has only one test, so that's the test that will run first. And let's look at that test. And we see we still have a capital R restaurant here, and which probably needs to be a commit. And let's see, there's 14 of those. Let's go one at a time and be very careful about what we change. Edit restaurant should be edit commit. That's good. Restaurant. Now this commit name, no. There is no name in a commit. What we can substitute is commit message. Now, what is this test doing? The test is saying, now this is renders header, but table is not present. That's actually incorrect. It should say renders header, but form is not present. What we're doing here is we are saying that if we don't have a commit yet, because looking up the commit timed out, we shouldn't even render the form. We're testing basically this bit of code right here. And this bit of code likely, this test is likely there because in the past there was some kind of a mutation error here where it mutated this code, so maybe changing the and to an or something like that, replacing this with true or replacing it with false, and the test didn't catch it. This code is supposed to say, don't even render the form unless you have a commit. And this test is saying, we don't have a commit. We are timing out when we look up the commit. So make sure that query by test ID commit message is not in the document. What is this query by test ID commit message? Well, it is in the commit form. Test ID prefix plus ID, test ID prefix plus hyphen message. It's looking for this and saying, I better not find it. That's how I know the form isn't on the screen. So that's what that's doing. There are other ways we could do that. We could, instead of doing query by test ID, we could do query by text and look for message. This is just how the sample code is doing it. So we will leave that. By the way, one other thing here, you may be wondering, what's this restore console? Restore console equals mock console, restore console. What's happening here is whenever you set up your get to timeout, that is going to create a whole lot of error messages because we're trying to get something from the back end, and the back end is saying, nope. And so you get error messages showing up, and that can really make your test output look really messy. So sometimes when we have a test where during the test we are deliberately causing some kind of network error, we will basically use this mock console to say, we don't want to see all of those nasty error messages. Just turn that off. If you are ever wanting to look up like more about this, if you go to the course website and look up wall of red, hiding the wall of red, this is what it looks like if you don't see it. Request failed with status code 404. If there's a timeout or something, or you're mocking a 404 error, this is basically how this link here is a link that shows you. I'm not going to do that right now, but it shows you how to do it, how to hide the console error log wall when testing with Jest. So, but let's get back on track. We're back here, and we are going to try running this test. So let's give it a try. We're going to come over here and say npm test. Test passes. So good. Let us now take this describe block. I'm going to do that and going to select this whole, let's see. If I do that, will it? Unfortunately, no. So let's select it like this. Let's select the whole thing. Looks like there are two tests in this describe block. I'm going to uncomment the whole thing, and then I'm going to comment out. As you know, instead of commenting out, I'm going to show you another trick. We've already tried the test in the previous describe block. In this describe block, there are two tests. I can run them one at a time by temporarily putting in test dot only. This will run only this one test, and it will skip the rest, especially if I do npm test minus minus or hyphen hyphen, and then put in the name of this test file, which is commits edit page, commits edit page. I can just put in a substring, and now it is running just the one test, which failed, and then there are two skipped tests. And it's possible that the reason is, very possible that, yeah, the reason is that I still have like all this restaurant stuff in here. So let's go back and actually everything that says restaurant form really should say commit form. So let's change restaurant form to commit form. And I think we can probably just do that without any fear throughout the entire file. But that's not going to be enough because we still have name and description when what we need is message field, commit form, message. And then we need this line, basically duplicate this 4 times. And this is going to be message, URL, author, login, and commit time. Now, what these are all representing is in the form on the screen, and let's go back to the edit form. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each of these fields, we're grabbing it and pointing an object at it. We're grabbing an object that represents this field. And that's what these lines of code do. Screen.test ID, commit form message, commit form URL, author login, and commit time. When we do screen.get test ID, we are finding on the rendered page, the test renders this page in memory and then finds each of these HTML elements and sets this variable to a object that represents that item on the screen. And so with that, then we also are getting a object for the submit button. And we then can do expects. Basically, these are like assertions. We expect the ID field to be in the document. We expect it to have value 17. Now, here's something we need to be careful of with the edit. Here we have Axios mock on put 17 Freebirds. This is not right. This is not right. We need to decide, first of all, up here. Remember I talked about how at the top of this, we use this let ID equals use params, and that is how the commit edit page knows what value is in the URL. If we come over here, notice that this is commits edit 4. That number 4 is the ID of the commit. How does it know? It knows from here. It does the use params call, and that flows into the ID. When we're writing a test, how do we tell the page what that ID is going to be? This is how. We mock this React Router DOM, which is then this use params call, and basically everything in all of our tests in this file is assuming the ID is going to be 17. So that's why in this on get, we're looking for ID 17. And down here in this, we are looking for ID 17 and we're replying with ID 17, but not name and description, name Freebird's description burritos, that's a restaurant. What we need is a commit. So if I go over to my commits fixtures, um, let's go to commits fixtures. Here we go. This is what we want, but the ID field is going to have to be 17. The ID field is going to have to be 17. All right. Deleted the wrong line. That's the one. Okay. Let's fix that up. And then down here, we're going to have the same thing. Oh, and also yeah. All right. That looks good. Let's take these. And down here on the put, we will put all of those. And let me just pause for one moment. All right. So let's see, where were we? On get, on put. Typically in the on put, this is where we would have the changes. So updated test for block controller edits. I will change this to 01 just so there's a change. Author login, division 7, and I'll change this to 1030. The ID has to stay the same, but all the other fields should be updated. So that's what we're doing here with the on get and the on put. We are setting it up so that when we ask for the commit, we will get a commit with some values. When we try to update it, it will be updated with edited values. So now, let's see, we have our ID field, message field. We expect the ID field to have 17. That's correct. But now, instead of name and description, we need a pair like this for each of our actual fields. So name is going to become message. So message field, expect message field. And instead of Freebirds, we want the message. Now, what message is this? We have our commits edit page, and we want to make sure it's populated with the data provided. What is the data provided? It's this data right here. So we're making sure that the data that comes from the back end is the data that ends up in the form on the screen. That's what we're testing. So we're testing that the data flows from the back end into the form and shows up on the page. That's what these tests are testing. So here we've got the message field, and now we need to do the same thing for the URL field. And the value that we expect that to have is this value up here for the URL. So let's grab that URL and come back down here, and we expect it to have that value. So there's the value that we expect. Let's close up that parenthesis and put a semicolon there. We now need to do the same thing for our author login. So expect author login to be in the document and to have the value. I believe the value that was coming in was P. Conrad. And then we expect the commit time. The commit time. We expect that to be in the document, and it should have the value. Let's see, what was the value that's coming in from the get? It's this one right here. So that's what we expect. And now this is where we need to be a little bit careful. It goes into the form, but the Z gets removed. So we're going to take that Z off, just like that. Then we expect the submit button to have the text content update. And now we're going to change these fields, right? So we're going to change them. And what are we going to change them to? We're going to change them to these values, because those are the values that when we do the put, those are the values that are going to come back, we hope. So let's change the message field. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this out for the moment, and we'll update all of that in a minute. So there is that. Let's get rid of this and we'll make 4 copies. Well, 3 more copies of it anyway. So this is going to be message field, URL field, author login field, and commit time field. And the values are the new values. Those new values are this one. Let's get just the contents of the string. There they go. Oops, wrong place. There. That still did not work. Let's try that one more time. That's the value I want. I want to put it right in those. That's what I was trying to do. I don't know what that other thing was doing. Let's get the URL. Just copy all of these down so that they're handy. And this is where we're working. I'll paste that there temporarily. There's the URL that goes right in there. Again, I don't quite understand why this is being obstinate. That's what I'm trying to copy, this right here. And it should go right in there. I guess it is still copying the entire line. Let me just do this. Got to get rid of that, get rid of this, get rid of that, get rid of this. There. Now I just have the just the values that I want to put in my strings. So that goes in here, but without all that extra space. Now that goes away. Division 7 goes in here for the author login. Here is my time. That's going to go in here, but without the Z on it, because the date time picker doesn't support having the time zone. The Z gets added on later. So we have we've changed everything on the screen. So this is, again, this is simulating a user looking up this item by going to the edit page for pop-ups are annoying. Going to the edit page for record 17. We're verifying that all of the correct information is on the page. Then we're changing all the fields and we're clicking the submit button. And what we expect, wait for mock toast. Remember, this is now should be called to have been called. This is how we check by looking for this mock toast. This is how we make sure that the backend actually happened. We got a response back and the toast went up. Because over in the edit page, you can see that the onSuccess function is what fires the toast. So the toast, in some ways, it's helping us to write this test because it is a signal that we can wait for to know that we can now start making the assertions that the transaction with the backend has completed. We expect the mock toast to have been called with not restaurant updated, but commit updated, ID 17, and this should actually be message. And it will be the new message, and the new message is this one, updated tests for blah controller edits. So boom, no. That is so annoying. I want just that copy and put that in there. There it is. That's what it should look like. So there is the toast. Navigate to have been called with navigating to commits, because after you have a successful edit, it goes back to the commits index page. We expect one put to have happened. We expect the param to be 17. And we expect the data to be, and JSON.stringify, what we have here is the object, but the data is actually going to be that in JSON format. And what we want is to take the posted object. The posted object is the one that we are sending to the back end, and that should look just like this. So it has all the new values in it. So we'll put that in there, uh, adjust that. And remember, this is still under test only. So we're just going to try to get this one test to pass. Still not quite. Let's see what problem we're having. We're saying that screen get by test ID commit form URL is not found. Now, what's nice is it gives us all of the HTML here. So we can go through commit form ID, commit form message, commit form. I don't see. There's URL. And I think I remember now. I think we took off the data test ID on the form because we were getting some kind of, what's the word, mutation testing issue. So we just like, maybe we don't need it. Let's get rid of it. Well, this is where you might need it, but we can actually solve this another way. We can solve this by, instead of get by test ID, I think we can do get by label text and then use the label text, which if I'm not, I can't remember if it's URL in caps or URL like this, but we can look at the form. It's URL like that. That's our label text. I think this will work. And it's actually a little bit nicer because test ID is, kind of a little bit of a hack. This is actually the preferred way of doing it. And we can do the same thing here. We can say get by author login and get by label text. And the same here, get by label text. And let's see, this label text is that commit time with the NUTC included. What's nice now is that our tests are not depending on these sketchy behind the scenes test IDs, but they're actually depending on stuff that the user would see on the screen. That's a little bit of a better practice. So let's see. Now I'm a little concerned that author login field is showing, author login field and commit time field. That's better. I noticed that because this was grayed out, which is a signal that it's not being used anywhere. So that was a little bit of a like a note that, and again, author login field, commit time field. All right. So be sure to use those colors in VS Code to give you a signal when things are not right. And let's see. Now we've got screen.getTestID commit form submit. I am gonna again try. Let's see. Let's try this instead with get by text. I think we can do get by text update. And that, because see that button says update? I think it's the only thing on the screen that says update. Let's try that and see if that works. And okay, we're making progress. Expected the element to have this value with the seconds, but I received one without the seconds. And I discovered a little bit of a hack. You can add, if your seconds are 0, they sometimes get truncated. But if we change it to something with 1 second, now we have to be sure that we do this all the way through. This is our new value that we're changing it to. So we'll change that to a value with 1 second. There, and here. And let's see if that fixes it. Okay, so we're still, I think this is actually coming in on the input side. So let's make on the input side, let's make this 1 second, and then we'll make the after one be 2 seconds. And so now we have to be sure this is on the input side. We expect the the value that gets loaded to have the 1 second. We're going to change it to the 2 seconds. And we're going to change this to the 2 seconds. So it's before it's 1, afterwards it's 2. And we also now have this. This has started to happen. The milliseconds are showing up here, like 01.000. So fine. If this were our legacy code app, we would want to put some more time into figuring out why that has started to happen. Because this is just an exercise, we're going to cheat a little bit. And this is going up on a YouTube video. So, yeah, well, there you go. Let's see, where were we? We were looking at this. We expected the element to have the value 123401, but we actually received a value with these milliseconds on the end of it. And this is what we are getting out of the, like we've loaded this into the HTML element that represents the date time. And then when we ask the value, it's got these pesky milliseconds on it. So fine, we will just give in and say, sure, that's acceptable to us. And those are going to go right here. Let's see what happens now. All right, so now we got further. And what we see is that we expected this with ID 17. What we got back is this, which does not have the ID 17 in it. That's one change. And then we're getting the milliseconds in the time that comes back. So two things. Down here in the time that comes back, we will add the milliseconds. And apparently, when we do the put, we're not including the ID, and that actually makes sense. That actually makes sense because you typically don't change the ID. So when we send this over, we're only sending the fields that change. And that test passes. Notice we have 2 skipped tests, so we still have 1 more test to work on. So we're going to take this test dot only from here, take it away from here. And there's 1 more test that we have to fix, and that is this test right here. So we're testing that it changes when you click update. So we have our ID field. So this part of the test is going to be similar to what we had before. So we can actually come back up here and say, let's copy these lines. These are the lines that are checking that the content, checking that the form is all there and that the content is right. So that starts here and then goes down to here. And then we are changing, it occurs to me, I think these 2 tests are now sort of, sounds sort of redundant. I think what we can do is if we just take this expect mock navigate, quite frankly, and put it at the end of this, that may be all we need. Expect mock navigate to have been called with. And if we take this test, what I'm going to do for the time being is just comment it out because I have a feeling it's redundant. Now, how can we know whether it's redundant or not? We've commented it out. We have these 2 tests that have passed. Let's do npm run coverage. And if there's no coverage gap, we don't need that other test. There's no coverage gap, but we also need to do npx striker run -m, no coverage gap. And if there's no mutation, gap as well. And remember that we copy the path not of the test, but of the unit we are testing, which is the commits edit page. So let's put that in and let's see, do we have any mutation testing gaps? We do not. So in fact, the second test was redundant. We can get rid of it. I am going to come up here and say that populate with new data, with data provided, and changes when data is changed. Because that's what this was testing, that the data changes when you click update. All right, get rid of that second test. So this goes to show that when you are copying and pasting from existing code, it doesn't necessarily mean that the code you're copying is the best or perfect solution. There are always improvements you can make. And in this case, we've taken two tests and combined them into one. And that is a lot easier to maintain. And we have no reduction in the power of our test suite. So that's a win. We've now written the tests. Let's do the following. Let's go ahead and do a get status. Let's do a get add dot get status, get commit minus mpc edit commits, edit page and tests. And I'll say storybook entry pending and do get push origin pc commit edit page minus u. And let's go ahead and do a pull request. We still do need to do the storybook, but we can see whether our tests are passing. This closes what was my Kanban board issue here? It was issue 97. So this closes number 97. In this PR, we add the commit edit page plus add a working. Let's say we replace the placeholder commit edit page with a working edit page. To test, one, visit the Doku deployment at, not that one, this one? Yes, this one. There's my Doku deployment. Now we haven't deployed it yet, but we're going to in a minute. So I'm just go ahead and put this in. Visit the Doku deployment, log in, 3, navigate to the commits page. If there isn't a commit listed yet, create one, and then click the edit button. Make changes to each of the fields and click update. See that your changes took effect. There we go. And then to do, add storybook entry, to do, add screenshot. There we go. So there is all that. Create pull request. And now that I have the branch pushed, I have the pull request pushed, I will get this going over on Doku. So SSH, Doku get sync, team02 dev p Conrad. Just grab the URL from the repo. It's always the HTTPS URL. Paste that in. My branch name, get status. My branch name is PC commit edit page. Boom, there it is. There's my Doku get sync. Here's my Doku PS rebuild. No, that's my branch name. What I want is my Doku deployment name, team02 dev p Conrad. and we'll let that cook while we write the storybook entry. So let's go. Let's start at the top again, close up fixtures, close up main, close up tests, open up stories, go to pages. Under commits, we need a story here. We're going to grab the restaurant edit page story, paste it under commits, rename it from restaurant edit page stories to commits edit page stories. And now, did that? It looks like it didn't actually rename. Let's try that again. Rename commits edit page stories. That's better. Now we're here and let's start by just looking for restaurant and changing it to commit. But I'm going to go one at a time. That one looks good, good, good. But this should be commits edit page. That's why I'm going one at a time. And by the way, notice I have the case sensitive on. That one is fine. Oh, what? Back. That one is good. That one is good, but this is commits edit page. This is, let's change it to that. And there we go. What? Okay, commits edit page, 3 commits, but notice now I got the extra S because now it's not right. That's why you got to be a little bit careful when just doing these global searches and replaces. Now, if I take the whole word restaurant fixtures and change it to commit fixtures, that is a little safer. So let's go ahead and do that. Now let's just look for restaurant and change it to commit. And actually, if I do restaurants to commits, that is a little safer. And yeah, I think we can do all those. Is there any restaurant left? If I take off no restaurants left in this file. Good. So commits, I think that should be commits edit page. There we go. Commit fixtures, yes. Commits edit page. Commits edit page. Notice we were passing storybook true. This all looks reasonable. So let's see if our storybook works. Let's, oh, what did I just do? I think I just control C. Darn it. I just control C'd my doku, which was in the process of building, instead of doing what I wanted, which is to do npm run storybook in my front end directory. But hopefully the doku will still be built by the time we're done with the storybook. And oh no, I have an error in my storybook. So that's not good. Let's go back to here. And I will tell you, errors in storybook are just, they can be really, really tricky because they, it's just, you do not typically get good error messages. I have no idea what like this error message is meaning, for example. Let's do the following. I do a get status. You can see that I changed this story, right? I can do a get. Will that work? If I do a get stash. It does not work because this is an untracked file. So what would I have to do? I think what I'd have to do, what I was suggesting was that maybe I could omit this file for a minute. Oh, I know what I can do. I can go over. What I want to do is see if I can restore the storybook to a working status and then make sure that it is my latest change and not something else that has broken the storybook. So the latest thing I did in the storybook code was to create this file right here. The only things that go into the storybook are things that end in .stories.js. So if I rename this to .stories.js.save, Now, in principle, when I do npm run storybook, it won't even see that file. And the storybook is working fine. Good. So now we know for sure, I mean, for better or for worse, we know for sure that that file is the cause of the problem. So let's go back and we'll get rid of the dot save on this one. JS, there it is. And what did we do? How did we get this? Where did we go wrong? Let's take a look through this a little bit at a time. We have React, commits edit page, commits fixtures, commits edit page, API. So far, I am not seeing anything in here that would cause a problem. Let's make sure that commits edit page is the correct import. So if I go to source main pages, commits edit page, sure enough, there it is, spelled right as far as I can see. Commit fixtures. Looking through to see if I can find the problem. Well, let's try. First of all, looking over here just to see if there's any error messages here. Don't see any. If I do npm run storybook again, and do we have the error again? This time, no error. Sometimes sometimes that's what happens. Commits edit page. Haha, it looks fine. So, and we click update and yeah, and we see up here, updated ID undefined, message undefined. We had that before and we figured out how to fix it. If we go into here and it's right here. The JSON that's being returned by the put is empty, but if instead we put into there a proper commit object, which we can get from, oh, I see what's happened. I'm disappearing in the video because the room is dark. Let me fix that right quick. Hey, look, I'm back. I just had to turn on the lights because it's now 5:20 in the evening in November, and it gets dark at 5:20. All right, so here we are again. What we want is for the put to return the updated object. So we can go back to our test here where we had a similar thing in the, let's see, this is the stories file. Oh, that's the restaurant stories file. I want the commit edit page test. There it is. And we have here, that's not the one I want. I want this one. All right, so see this object here? This is saying on put, reply with this. And we're going to do the same thing in our story. We're going to say, now I don't want to have two sets of braces there because that would be like an object and an object. So let's just make it one set of braces and then reformat. Okay, come on, reformat for me. Not quite sure why it's being obstinate, but let's try, we can do over here, npm run format. And are we good there? I think so. Return HTTP response. There's the first object, and then the second object is the status code. So I think we're good. And let's see what happens if we do the storybook again. npm run storybook. And we'll go to the let it finish building, go to the commits edit page story, click update. And this time, oh no, the toast message still says, oh, because it's saying ID and message undefined. Now that's right. A commit has an ID and a message, but I would have expected that to be the one that comes back from the put. So let's look one more time and see if we can understand when oh, we've got put API commits twice, and it would appear that what we want is maybe just the second, maybe just the second one. And yeah, let's try that. And let's see if that gives us something different. What this should do is get a window.alert with the request URL and body, and then it would also return this so that the toast message works properly. Let's try that. So I'm going back to here. Let's run Storybook again to make sure everything resets. And let's go to commits, and commit edit page. There's update. Put undefined and body undefined. Not ideal, but this worked. That worked, so that's better. Let's see what is happening. The request.url, request.body are undefined. Let's just take that out since that doesn't seem to be working. And we don't need that parameter anymore. I think this is going to be probably our best bet. So what we're saying is that when you are mocking the put, the backend call to the put, when you get one of those calls, return an HTTP response with this JSON status 200, and that will cause the toast message to come up with this. So let's try that one more time. We will run the storybook, go to commits, commit edit page, click update, and the toast message comes up. I think we're good to go. So let's do a get status. Let's do a get add. Oh, let's do an npm run format just to make sure format's good. npx ESLint ---- fix dot. And get status, get add dot, get commit -m pc, add stories for commit edit page, and also actually let's make that the formal name, commits edit page and fix formatting. Get push origin PC commit edit page, and we are very close to being ready to do our pull request. Let's see whether, yes, this did deploy on Doku, so that's good. Let's make sure it actually works over on Doku. Log in, commits, try editing. This is my commit updated URL with more stuff. P. Conrad is now division 7 and 12. That'll be 11. This will be 15. That'll be 2023 at 4:22 a.m. Update. And indeed, that worked. So that's good. Let's check our pull request and see how it's doing. Still yellow. Yellow is good. And we scroll on down here. We see that the chromatic is still running, and Mutation testing is still running. So we're going to need to wait for a minute so that we can get the storybook link. So I'll pause the video while those all cook. I'll just leave this like this. Hopefully by the time I resume the video, this will be a green check. Unless we've got to do some, accepting of new, what's the visual tests or whatever. But we'll see. Back in a second. All right, I'm back, and we do see there is on the UI test, one change, it must be accepted as baseline. That's probably our new page. So come over here, verify change, and sure enough, there's the new edit page, which we will click to accept. That's our visual testing from Chromatic. So with that, we can go back to our pull request. So let's get back to the pull request, which we can get to by going through the issue, back to the repo, back to the pull request. And hey, look at that green check. Love to see it. Now, even though the green check is there, it may still take a moment or two before, this is 116, before the 116 storybook is ready. But we're in luck because it's ready now. So I can grab the link to the commits edit page. There it is. Grab that. Go back to my pull request and edit and go storybook : and link that in. And then for a screenshot, I'll go back over here to our edit page and let me do one that has a little bit nicer data on it. So I'll click cancel and, well, it's not the best, but it'll do. Edit commit. Let's move this up. Move that. No, I can't move that. I can move this though and get I want to get the URL there in the screenshot. And we'll go back over to here and screenshot, boom. And we are ready. This pull request links to the issue. The issue links to the pull request. I will ask for reviewers. I will assign the pull request to myself. That's something I probably should have been doing all along and maybe have not been, but that's a good thing to do as well. Go to our Kanban board and type in T. Conrad. And I'm able to drag my last issue over to in review. So that is it. We have gone through all of the issues for team02, as well as learned a little bit about how to do a get pull minus rebase origin main to rebase pull requests on main, how to do code reviews and merge pull requests that are ready to be merged. Hope this has been helpful in understanding a bit about working with React, working with React testing, and also working with Storybook. And in the next set of videos, we will start to talk about the full testing pyramid. That's the team03 project. At least that's what we're calling it in fall 24. And we will look at integration testing and end-to-end testing. So far, we've been focused on unit testing, but the full testing pyramid also includes integration and end-to-end testing. Look forward to exploring those with you in the next video. Thanks for watching, and see you then.